What I saw in the postseason last year made me extremely optimistic about what Evan Mobley can be as an offensive player.
So the Cleveland Cavaliers are about to kick off the start of the 2024-25 season tonight against the Chicago Bulls in their first preseason game. I want to talk about why everyone is grossly underestimating this team, but not in the way that you would think. And I want to just get right into it. So let's start off by talking about how things ended up ending last season, because it was a pretty good season, I would say. I mean, it probably went a little bit better than what I would have expected. They made it to the second round. They finally got over the hump, beating the Orlando Magic in 7 games, but that Celtics series was a blowout, but nobody was healthy. I mean, past game 3, Donovan Mitchell wasn't even available. So, I mean, you can't fully judge what the ceiling of this team is. And I also think JB Bickerstaff was kind of holding this team back. I didn't really like his rotations. Some of the things he was doing was a little bit skeptical. He was a good head coach to get the team from rebuild mode into the playoffs, but now that they were there, he was not built for the big stage. I didn't like his rotations, and again, some of the things he did with like Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, I just didn't like it, was not a fan. But now with Kenny Atkinson in charge, I think he's going to allow guys like Evan Mobley to develop into their fullest potential, and that is because I think he's going to be a lot more hands-off. He's not going to be as controlling. He's going to let guys do what is best for them. And that was the problem with JB. He was a little bit too controlling. He wanted to control how practices went, and some of the superstars like Mitchell and Garland, they didn't really like that. And speaking of Mitchell and Garland, they just didn't really work together last year when they were on the court together. It was almost like they held each other back instead of what they should have been doing and working together to make each other better. That was kind of the problem with the core 4. When Mitchell was on the court without Garland, he was better. And when Allen was on the court without Mobley, he was better, and vice versa. I mean, we all saw that huge win streak over the course of winter when it was just Mitchell and Allen running the show. But yeah, this upcoming season, you can describe it in 2 words: Evan Mobley. He is going to be the deal breaker. He's going to be the X factor that either takes this team to the next height or keeps them right where they are. He just needs to be more aggressive. I think he has it in the bag to be a superstar. I think he has that kind of talent. He has that ceiling. Defensively, he's already there. To me, he's a top 3 rim protector in the entire league already at his young age. But offensively, he's got to be aggressive. His stat lines need to go from being like 5 for 8 to being like 15 for 20 or 15 for 22. That's the kind of production he needs to put up. Even if he's 15 for 25, he just needs to put up more shots throughout the game. But that's the only thing I'm really scared about with him. I don't know if he has it in him to switch his mindset to being that type of guy, because it seems like he's timid. It seems like that's just his demeanor. He needs to play mean. He needs to be aggressive. That's how the Cavs are going to get to the next level. And without it, I think they're just going to stay at a 50-win team and a second round exit. And then in terms of Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen together, it kind of seems like the duo isn't going to work, but at the same time, it can defensively for sure. But they definitely ruin the spacing a little bit, so I would prefer if the minutes are spread out as much as possible, and throughout the course of the season, one of them is going to get injured. It's just going to happen, and it has over the last 3 years. I know some of the stuff I'm saying might not be the most bright, especially before the start of the season, but I'm just being real. I think some things aren't going to work. I still think some changes are going to have to be made. I don't know if the core 4 is championship caliber, but we haven't seen them all healthy together in the playoffs, so hopefully this is the year that finally happens. And another big key to the success of this season is Darius Garland. He has to bounce back. I don't want to compare him to Deshaun Watson and the Browns. It's nothing like that at all, but Garland is on a huge contract, and he needs to produce because last year, he completely fell off. He was turning the ball over, he wasn't as efficient shooting-wise, especially from beyond the arc, and overall, he just needs to get back to what he was in 2022 and 21, where he was this guy who was super fun to watch that made plays for the other guys on the team. Also, I'm not sure how true this is or not, but from people I've heard, he goes out a lot. So definitely he needs to cut back on that and focus on his game, especially after how last season went. I'm not one of those guys who says you can't enjoy your success, but he really does need to lock in and just focus on this season. And then moving on, the next guy I want to talk about is Sam Merrill, because I think he needs to be a huge piece of this rotation in 2024, especially throughout the grind of the regular season. Like, I think he should be the 7th or 8th man in the roster, especially if he can provide a similar shooting efficiency to what he did last year. And I never thought JB Bickerstaff utilized him the right way. Like, there were times the Cavs would have back-to-back games, and on the second night, he wouldn't even get any minutes. It would make no sense, and he would run the starters into the ground. It kind of baffled me, to be honest. And then, of course, Donovan Mitchell has to be healthy for the playoffs. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He needs to be healthy throughout the first round, the second round, the third round, and hopefully the fourth round. And the offense needs to run through him throughout the entire postseason. Another thing that I'd love for Kenny Atkinson to incorporate back into this offense is the lob game. Because in 2022, it was so fun to watch with Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley, even Jarrett Allen. They would run a pick and roll, Garland would run around it, and then he would lob it up, and they were so successful with it the whole season. I'm not sure why last year they didn't really do it at all. It kind of made no sense to me, but we'll see what happens this year, because I think that can be a big part of the offense. Alright. Now to talk about some of the things that happened over the offseason, the Cavs re-signed Isaac Okoro. I really like that move. I think he's a consistent defender, and hopefully he can continue to improve that corner three, especially in big games, because that's the area that he lacked in. He was fine in the regular season. He actually shot at an above average percentage, but then when you got to the playoffs, he was non-existent. Actually, I can't say he was non-existent. He did make a few, but it's just those like big momentum threes. He never makes those. And then there was the Donovan Mitchell extension. We all know about that. I'm so happy that he stayed, and it seems like he really enjoys being in this city, which is a crazy thing for an athlete of his caliber to say, because that just rarely happens. I mean, we saw it with Jose, but outside of that, it's a very rare occurrence. And then in the draft, they took Jalen Tyson. I like his game. I think he's got a lot of upside and a lot of developing to do, so we'll see what happens with him. And then there's Emoni Bates, who just got surgery. Very unfortunate. I thought he was going to be a small part of the rotation this year, but I guess not, and it sucks for him because I know he was working super hard on his game and his body to get in the right shape for an actual 82-game NBA season. But yeah, I don't really think the regular season matters too much this year. The Cavs are going to be a 50 to 55 win team. I think it's pretty predictable, but the thing that I'm looking at the most is the development of Evan Mobley. I want him to start being aggressive. I want him to be a 20 points per game scorer. To me, the future of this franchise is very up in the air. I believe in the core four, but I also don't. But again, we haven't seen them all healthy together on the big stage, so that is what I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing. The path is definitely going to be difficult though. The Eastern Conference is more stacked than ever. Paul George is now on the 76ers. I don't know what that's gonna mean. Honestly, it might make them worse, but it could make them better because Paul George is Paul George. It's all about health for him. The Celtics are obviously going to be good. They're basically running back the same team. They're probably the favorites to win it all. And then there's also the Heat. Jimmy Butler might be healthy. The Orlando Magic are on the come up. The Indiana Pacers are on the come up. Then there's the New York Knicks. They just got Karl Anthony Towns. That's going to be interesting. And then you know the Bucks are going to be good with Giannis. So yeah, the East is loaded. So Cleveland will be lucky to get a top 3 or 4 seed. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That's really all I got for this one. Just kind of wanted to go over the outlook of the 2024 season. I'm super excited for basketball to be back. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect from this team, but I do believe that they got something brewing. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you all later.